An environment minister we found took a bribe from a big game hunting organization, giving us scandal, violence and scandal, with 2 down, 2 more to go. So I simply recruited Bo Derek as our spokesperson for the campaign. And at the press conference, a reporter for the Vancouver Sun said, what the hell does Bo Derek know about wolves? I mean, this is pretty stupid having her as your spokesperson. I said, well, you know, if I had Dr. Gordon Haber or Dr. David Meck, the 2 foremost wolf biologists in the world here, it'd be an empty room, wouldn't it? But the fact the place is packed, it'll be the headline story of your newspaper tomorrow. You're going to write it, your editor's going to put it on the front page, and you know what? There's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. So you can dictate the placement of your article by giving them what they want, what they cannot ignore. And so we knew that the media also loves drama. So, you know, a few years ago, I went to all the different networks and I said, look, the biggest show on Discovery right now is a bunch of guys going out into a cold, hostile area to catch crabs. To catch crabs every episode. And that was it. I said, I'll give you men and women going from all over the world. We're going to go to the more cold and more hostile area to save whales. That's got to be more compelling than catching crabs every week. And so Animal Planet went for it. And that actually gave us a big boost in our support base by doing that show. Since then, though, we've had a number of documentaries. I mentioned Chasing the Thunder. The one that's going to be shown, there's one shown this afternoon called Sea of Shadows, and that's about our Milagro campaign. And Leslie Chilcog, who did Inconvenient Truth, just completed a film on myself that's called Watson. It's not about the computer, it's about me. And so that just opened at the Tribeca Film Festival, and it'll be shown here this afternoon. Any other questions?
Sea shepherd having more presence in Taipei for the
Well, Sea Shepherd, we will continue to oppose the killing of dolphins in Taiji, but here's the problem that we have. We started this many years ago, but Japan's response to what we do is to ban the entry of every Sea Shepherd person into Japan. So even no crimes committed or anything. So we have a difficult time getting into Japan right now. If you've been there before to oppose the killing of dolphins, you can't go again. So we simply ran out of people. But last year we had Nicky Baltic from South Africa, we had people from Australia, we had a few people get in. And they carry on when they can. They can do what they do when they can get in. But it is a very difficult thing. So taking on Japan is a very, very difficult thing, but we can win, and we showed that on the Southern Ocean Whale Campaign. We fought them every year. We reduced their quotas by sometimes they took only 30%, and one year only 10%. And we cost them literally tens of millions of dollars in profits. So finally this year, they pulled themselves away. There's no more whaling in the Southern Ocean. In fact, there's no more whaling in the Southern Hemisphere. And so that's a major, major victory. And people said, yeah, well, they say they're going to now start commercial whaling in their own waters. Well, they never stopped. So it's not that they're going to start anything. They just renamed what they do. But we're going to continue to support that. But this summer, we're going after Iceland, because Iceland's killing fin whales and blue whales. And last year we documented every single whale they brought in, but this year we're going to send one of our vessels up there to oppose it. So the Icelandic operation's a little different. It's not because Iceland, the Prime Minister of Iceland is against whaling. A good majority of the Icelandic people are against whaling. It carries on because of the perversity of one man, Christian Lofston, who has a whaling company. He's a multi-millionaire, but he loves to kill whales. He's like the Ahab of Iceland. We're going to take him on, and hopefully we'll be able to stop him. Or he's getting old, he might die, and that might be the end of it. Any other questions?
Well, I saw what you've done in France this year with the dolphin. I think it was really great, because the real difficulty is that people don't know what's going on. And in France, they think that we are doing well, fishing well, and this kind of stuff, but they are catching dolphins and this kind of stuff. And I saw also another question is like, there is also competition between the NGO, and it's really like a pity because, for example, Sea Shepherd wanted to help when the ship go down with all the pollution, And some organizations say, no, it's our job, we don't want your help, and that's really bad. And what I like with Sea Shepherd is that as parrots, you say the truth, and you say like, we will help anyway, even if you don't want us to help.
Yeah, the situation in France, France actually kills more dolphins every year than the Japanese do in Taiji. And that was out of sight and out of mind. And so this year we brought a ship in to follow the French fleet and to document what they were doing. And we brought the New York Times out, and the New York Times had just interviewed the crew on board a vessel, and they said, oh, we haven't killed a single dolphin. We have these pingers, it protects them. And the next day they went out with us, we followed that vessel. The first net came up with 2 dolphins. So they caught them bold-faced lying about that. But now it's a big scandal in France and Europe, and hopefully that will contribute to shutting down. The government said, oh yeah, the dolphins are protected because we have these pingers. Yeah, they do, but they don't use them. And that's a big difference. The vessel that went down, the Grande American cargo vessel that went down, was a major oil spill. And of course we immediately wanted to get down there and protect birds, but this organization that you're talking about told us that they would sue us if we came and protected birds. And because they claimed to have a monopoly on it. They said, well, that's all well and good, but the last time you had an oil spill, you only protected 7%. So I think there's room for us to get involved. So they said they'll sue us. I said, we don't care. We're going to go down there anyway. Just sue us. And if there's a bird comes ashore, it's got oil on it, we're going to help it. So this is the attitude you really got to take. It is unfortunate there's a lot of competition. That particular organization gets 5 million euros from the government, and therefore they believe that they're the only ones that can do it. And I think they're really afraid that they're going to lose their 5 million euros if anybody comes in. We don't want the government money, we just want to help.
Oh, hi, Paul. Just recently, yesterday, matter of fact, I saw the film Ghost Fleet. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to see that. But basically, it's about these men in Thailand that are enslaved or captured illegally, and they're doing pretty much illegal fishing and destroying the environment way off the banks of Thailand and Indonesia. But they have this operation where they bring them in the smaller boats, and they capture these men for like up to 12 years, and they're really like totally destroying the fishing or overfishing, basically. But it's 2 bad things, like human trafficking and kidnapping essentially, plus totally depleting the oceans way far away from Thailand and Indonesia, because they're going way out. So there's a lady that has an organization that's trying to help this, but after seeing that, I mean, for one thing, there was no dry eye in that theater after that movie. But it's like, I'm not going to buy fish from Indonesia. I'm not going to even buy fish from Thailand. I'm be really careful. But I don't know if you can shed light on that or know about it or...
Yeah, the Ghost Fleet, that was made by Paul Allen's group, Vulcan, which we work with on Chasing the Thunder. And we run across that slavery out at sea all the time, especially off of Africa, board vessels, and the captains have the passport. We arrested one vessel because he had all the passports, but one person was missing. The passport was there, but he wasn't, because they'll kill you and throw you overboard.
Right.
So we arrested that for an investigation into possible murder. But I want to point out one thing. We have it in the United States. In Hawaii, American fishing boats come into Honolulu, and there's a segregated area where those boats come in, and the crew on board, they're not slaves, but they work every day of the week for $300 a month on American ships, and they can't even go ashore when they get to Hawaii. They're stuck in that compound. So the U.S. fishing fleet is using, cheap labor, which I think is a form of slavery in a way. So all these countries are involved in it. Fishing is an immoral industry these days. Everything about it is immoral. They're destroying the oceans, they're exploiting people. There are 4 million fishing boats out in the world's oceans right now, and 40% of them are illegal. And that means that pretty much 40% of every fish that you buy in a restaurant or in a shop is illegal. A lot of transshipments are going on. Nobody knows the origin of these fish. Some fish are sold as one species when in fact they're another species. So it's completely out of control. If we're going to save the oceans, we have to shut down all industrialized fishing operations everywhere. all heavy gear fishing. And of course, people say, oh, you can't do that. Well, it's either that or the oceans die, and if the oceans die, we die. So you really got to make a choice. Do you want a future, or do you want to continue eating sushi? That's really the choice that you have to make. And for many, many hundreds of years in Polynesia, they had a policy which the shamans would call kapu, which they would declare an area, say in Bora Bora or Tahiti, kapu, which meant nobody could fish there. And they were pretty serious about it. If you were caught fishing in that bay, it was a death penalty. And everybody said, well, that's a little extreme. No, because the Polynesians knew that if the fish disappeared, they'd disappear. It was dependent upon them for their survival. So the problem with the world today is there's no kapu areas. Fish have no place to hide.
Even though there are protected areas?
Oh, protected areas are where all the protected areas and marine sanctuaries are where the poachers go, because they know they're going to find the fish there. The Galapagos, Cocos Island is surrounded in and out, in and out. I can guarantee anytime I go to Cocos Island, I'm going to catch poachers. So they know the fish are there. We know that the poachers are there. So it's as long as there's money to be made. And then of course the other argument is, well, these are just poor guys trying to make a living. Well, 1.5 million fishing boats of poor guys trying to make a living is going to ensure that nobody in the future is going to be able to make a living and won't even be able to survive. So the fishing industry has the potential to destroy civilization on this planet, and it's basically because of greed. And I was raised in a fishing village in the east coast of Canada, and everybody says, well, the poor fishermen. I saw those poor fishermen when I was a kid. They were the ones throwing oil overboard. They were the ones shooting everything that moved. If a bear was on the shore, they were the ones shooting dolphins. They were the ones torturing birds. They're not innocent people, and I have nothing but contempt for the ones that I saw. And now today, when I was a child, my hometown was the largest lobster fishing town in the world. Today, it's not there. If you go there, you can order mussels, which when I was a kid was considered garbage. Nobody would eat it because they were dirty, but now that's what we've adapted to that diminishment. So turbot was considered a garbage fish. Nobody ate it. Now that's the fish you order in a New York or Parisian restaurant. We've adapted to that diminishment. And soon we'll be eating jellyfish.
Okay, I have a follow-on question. Okay, so as a consumer, I see wild catch fish. Okay, I think that's going to be healthier than the farm fish. I've heard all kinds of nightmares about farm salmon. I won't eat tilapia. I don't know if it's just stuff I read on the internet, if it's true or not true. So how do you feel about farm seafood? I mean, that's another choice, and I don't know if that's a good environmental, choice, or if it's bad for our health. What do we do?
One of the most toxic fish out there right now is farm-raised salmon, and it's extremely destructive. They said, well, if you raise a fish on a fish farm, this is going to protect the fish in the well, but it takes up to 70 fish caught in the well to feed one fish raised on a salmon farm. So in fact, it's more intensive. Plus, in order to survive in those crowded conditions, they put a lot of antibiotics into the fish meal. They're extremely polluting. And what we've been doing with our Operation Virus Hunter with Dr. Alexander Morton in British Columbia is to prove the transmission of retroviruses and parasites from salmon farms to wild salmon populations. So the indigenous 7 species of salmons in British Columbia are being wiped out by salmon farms. Salmon farms are extremely destructive. And and they also spread these viruses. They're incredible die-offs in Chile and in Norway from these salmon farms. And as I think the best way to sum it up is the indigenous people of the West Coast, the First Nations, said, it's an assault on the spirit of the salmon. You're putting them basically in concentration camps and abusing them, and at the same time killing everything. They shoot every bear that comes by, they shoot every seal that comes by, they shoot eagles that come by, and they're also taking the food out of the mouths of the orcas, and that's why the orcas are starving to death in the Pacific Northwest.
I think we're about actually out of time here. Everybody say thank you very much to
Thank you.
And stick around.
friends.
An environment minister we found took a bribe from a big game hunting organization, giving us scandal, violence and scandal, with 2 down, 2 more to go. So I simply recruited Bo Derek as our spokesperson for the campaign. And at the press conference, a reporter for the Vancouver Sun said, what the hell does Bo Derek know about wolves? I mean, this is pretty stupid having her as your spokesperson. I said, well, you know, if I had Dr. Gordon Haber, Dr. David Meck, the 2 foremost wolf biologists in the world here, it'd be an empty room, wouldn't it? But the fact the place is packed, it'll be the headline story of your newspaper tomorrow. You're going to write it, your editor's going to put it on the front page, and you know what? There's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. So you can dictate the placement of your article by giving them what they want, what they cannot ignore. And so we knew that the media also loves drama. So, you know, a few years ago, I went to all the different networks and I said, look, the biggest show on Discovery right now is a bunch of guys going out into a cold, hostile area to catch crabs. They catch crabs every episode. And that was it. I said, I'll give you men and women going from all over the world. They're going to go to the more cold and more hostile area to save whales. That's got to be more compelling than catching crabs every week. And so Animal Planet went for it. And that actually gave us a big boost in our support base by doing that show. Since then, though, we've had a number of documentaries. I mentioned Chasing the Thunder. The one that's going to be shown, there's one shown this afternoon called Sea of Shadows, and that's about our Milagro campaign. And Leslie Chilcott, who did Inconvenient Truth, just completed a film on myself that's called Watson. It's not about the computer, it's about me. And so that just opened at the Tribeca Film Festival, and it'll be shown here this afternoon. Any other questions?
Will Sea Shepherd be having more presence in Taipei for the
Well, Sea Shepherd, we will continue to oppose the killing of dolphins in Taiji, but here's the problem that we have. We started this many years ago, but Japan's response to what we do is to ban the entry of every Sea Shepherd person into Japan. So even no crimes committed or anything. So we have a difficult time getting into Japan right now. If you've been there before to oppose the killing of dolphins, you can't go again. So we simply ran out of people. But last year we had Nikki Baltic from South Africa, we had people from Australia, we had a few people get in. And they carry on when they can. They can do what they do when they can get in. But it is a very difficult thing. So taking on Japan is a very, very difficult thing, but we can win, and we showed that on the Southern Ocean Whale Campaign. We bought them every year. We reduced their quotas by sometimes they took only 30%, and one year only 10%. And we cost them literally tens of millions of dollars in profits. So finally this year, they pulled themselves away. There's no more whaling in the Southern Ocean. In fact, there's no more whaling in the Southern Hemisphere. And so that's a major, major victory. And people said, yeah, well, they say they're going to now start commercial whaling in their own waters. Well, they never stopped. So it's not that they're going to start anything. They just renamed what they do. But we're going to continue to support that. But this summer, we're going after Iceland, because Iceland's killing fin whales and blue whales. And last year we documented every single whale they brought in, but this year we're going to send one of our vessels up there to oppose it. So the Icelandic operation's a little different. It's not because Iceland, the Prime Minister of Iceland is against whaling. A good majority of the Icelandic people are against whaling. It carries on because of the perversity of one man, Christian Lofston, who has a whaling company. He's a multi-millionaire, but he loves to kill whales. He's like the Ahab of Iceland. We're going to take him on, and hopefully we'll be able to stop him. Or he's getting old, he might die, and that might be the end of it. Any other questions?
Well, I saw what you've done in France this year with the dolphin. I think it was really great, because the real difficulty is that people don't know what's going on. And in France, they think that we are doing well, fishing well, and this kind of stuff, but they are catching dolphins and this kind of stuff. And I saw also another question, is like, there is also competition between the NGO, and it's really like a pity, because, for example, Sea Shepherd wanted to help when the ship go down with all the pollution, And some organizations say, no, it's our job, we don't want your help, and that's really bad. And what I like with Sea Shepherd is that as parrots, you say the truth, and you say like, we will help anyway, even if you don't want us to help.
Yeah, the situation in France, France actually kills more dolphins every year than the Japanese do in Taiji. And that was out of sight and out of mind. And so this year we brought a ship in to follow the French fleet and to document what they were doing. And we brought the New York Times out, and the New York Times had just interviewed the crew on board a vessel, and they said, oh, we haven't killed a single dolphin. We have these pingers, it protects them. And the next day they went out with us, we followed that vessel. The person that came up with 2 dolphins. So they caught them bold-faced lying about that. But now it's a big scandal in France and Europe, and hopefully that will contribute to shutting down. The government said, oh yeah, the dolphins are protected because we have these pingers. Yeah, they do, but they don't use them. And that's the big difference. The vessel that went down, the Grande American cargo vessel that went down, was a major oil spill. And of course we immediately wanted to get down there and protect birds, but this organization that you're talking about told us that they would sue us if we came and protected birds. And because they claimed to have a monopoly on it. They said, well, that's all well and good, but the last time you had an oil spill, you only protected 7%. So I think there's room for us to get involved. So they said they'll sue us. I said, we don't care. We're going to go down there anyway. Just sue us. And if there's a bird comes ashore, it's got oil on it, we're going to help it. So this is the attitude you really got to take. It is unfortunate there's a lot of competition. That particular organization gets 5 million euros from the government, and therefore they believe that they're the only ones that can do it. And I think they're really afraid that they're going to lose their 5 million euros if anybody comes in. We don't want the government money, we just want to help.
Oh, hi, Paul. Just recently, yesterday, matter of fact, I saw the film Ghost Fleet. I don't know if you had the opportunity to see that. But basically, it's about these men in Thailand that are enslaved. They're captured illegally, and they're doing pretty much illegal fishing and destroying the environment way off the banks of Thailand and Indonesia. But they have this operation where they bring them in the smaller boats. And they capture these men for like up to 12 years, and they're really like totally destroying the fishing. They're overfishing, basically. But it's 2 bad things, like human trafficking and kidnapping, essentially, plus totally depleting the oceans way far away from Thailand and Indonesia, because they're going way out. So, there's a lady that has an organization that's trying to help this, but after seeing that, I mean, for one thing, there was no dry eye in that theater after that movie. But it's like, I'm not going to buy fish from Indonesia. I'm not going to even buy fish from Thailand. I'm be really careful. But I don't know if you can shed light on that or know about it or.
Yeah, the Ghost Fleet, that was made by Paul Allen's group, Vulcan, which we worked with on Chasing the Thunder. And we run across that slavery out at sea all the time, especially off of Africa, board vessels, and the captains have the passports. We arrested one vessel because he had all the passports, but one person was missing. The passport was there, but he wasn't, because they'll kill you and throw you overboard.
Right.
So we arrested that for an investigation into possible murder. But I want to point out one thing. We have it in the United States. In Hawaii, American fishing boats come into Honolulu, and there's a segregated area where those boats come in, and the crew on board, they're not slaves, but they work every day of the week for $300 a month on American ships, and they can't even go ashore when they get to Hawaii. They're stuck in that compound. So the U.S. fishing fleet is using, cheap labor, which I think is a form of slavery in a way. So all these countries are involved in it. Fishing is an immoral industry these days. Everything about it is immoral. They're destroying the oceans, they're exploiting people. There are 4 million fishing boats out in the world's oceans right now, and 40% of them are illegal. And that means that pretty much 40% of every fish that you buy in a restaurant or in a shop is illegal. A lot of transshipments are going on. Nobody knows the origin of these fish. Some fish are sold as one species when in fact they're another species. So it's completely out of control. If we're going to save the oceans, we have to shut down all industrialized fishing operations everywhere. all heavy gear fishing. And of course, people say, oh, you can't do that. Well, it's either that or the oceans die, and if the oceans die, we die. So you really got to make a choice. Do you want a future, or do you want to continue eating sushi? That's really the choice that you have to make. And for many, many hundreds of years in Polynesia, they had a policy which the shamans would call kapu, which they would declare an area, say in Bora Bora or Tahiti, kapu, which meant nobody could fish there. And they were pretty serious about it. If you were caught fishing in that bay, it was a death penalty. And everybody said, well, that's a little extreme. No, because the Polynesians knew that if the fish disappeared, they'd disappear. It was dependent upon them for their survival. So the problem with the world today is there's no kapu areas. Fish have no place to hide.
Even though there are protected areas?
Oh, protected areas are where all the protected areas and marine sanctuaries are where the poachers go, because they know they're going to find the fish there. The Galapagos, Cocos Island, is surrounded in and out, in and out. Okay, I can guarantee anytime I go to Cocos Island, I'm going to catch poachers. So they know the fish are there. We know that the poachers are there. So it's as long as there's money to be made. And then of course the other argument is, well, these are just poor guys trying to make a living. Well, 1.5 million fishing boats of poor guys trying to make a living is going to ensure that nobody in the future is going to be able to make a living. They won't even be able to survive. So the fishing industry has the potential to destroy civilization on this planet, and it's basically because of greed. And I was raised in a fishing village in the east coast of Canada, and everybody says, well, the poor fishermen. I saw those poor fishermen when I was a kid. They were the ones throwing oil overboard. They were the ones shooting everything that moved. If a bear was on the shore, they were the ones shooting dolphins. They were the ones torturing birds. They're not innocent people, and I have nothing but contempt for the ones that I saw. And now today, when I was a child, my hometown was the largest lobster fishing town in the world. Today, it's not there. If you go there, you can order mussels, which when I was a kid was considered garbage. Nobody would eat it because they were dirty, but now that's what we've adapted to that diminishment. So turbot was considered a garbage fish. Nobody ate it. Now that's the fish you order in a New York or Parisian restaurant. We've adapted to that diminishment. And soon we'll be eating jellyfish.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. Okay. Okay, so as a consumer, I see wild catch fish. Okay, I think that's going to be healthier than the farm fish. I mean, I've heard all kinds of nightmares about farm salmon. I won't eat tilapia. I don't know if it's just stuff I read on the internet, if it's true or not true. So how do you feel about farm seafood? I mean, that's another choice, and I don't know if that's a good environmental, choice, or if it's bad for our health. I mean, what do we do?
Well, one of the most toxic fish out there right now is farm-raised salmon, and it's extremely destructive. They said, well, if you raise a fish on a fish farm, this is going to protect the fish in the well, but it takes up to 70 fish caught in the well to feed one fish raised on a salmon farm. So in fact, it's more intensive. Plus, in order to survive in those crowded conditions, they put a lot of antibiotics into the fish meal. They're extremely polluting. And what we've been doing with our Operation Virus Hunter with Dr. Alexander Morton in British Columbia is to prove the transmission of retroviruses and parasites from salmon farms to wild salmon populations. So the indigenous 7 species of salmons in British Columbia are being wiped out by salmon farms. Salmon farms are extremely destructive. And and they also spread these viruses. They're incredible die-offs in Chile and in Norway from these salmon farms. And as I think the best way to sum it up is the indigenous people of the West Coast, the First Nations, said, it's an assault on the spirit of the salmon. You're putting them basically in concentration camps and abusing them, and at the same time killing everything. They shoot every bear that comes by, they shoot every seal that comes by, they shoot eagles that come by, and they're also taking the food out of the mouths of the orcas, and that's why the orcas are starving to death in the Pacific Northwest.
I think we're about actually out of time here. Everybody say thank you very much. Hold on.
Thank you.
And stick around.
Illegal nets out of the ocean there. Over one. And we've also seen since the film an increase in violence towards our crew. We've been hit with Molotov cocktails, 30 boats come out and purposely attack our ships Like we are seeing an escalation of violence like we've never seen against us being there, just due to, I think it's sort of a testament to how effective we're being there. By removing these nets, like we're seeing an increase of violence towards us. But that just shows that we're doing a good job and we're stopping millions of dollars entering the black market every single day. So yeah, I'm gonna go back there straight after this and continue working there.
Andre, talk about the situation. Use that word cartel. I mean, this has multiple levers and multiple places to attack this problem. What's being done outside the water? What are some of the other things that are pushing against this?
Yeah, so here in this film you actually see two NGOs working sort of together, certainly side by side, covering the two different aspects of the problem. One is poaching and the other one is trafficking. My organization, the Elephant Action League, is specialized in intelligence gathering and investigating operations on the trafficking side. So our job is to understand in details with evidence who is behind this whole thing. Here we are talking about almost 1,000 nets. It's millions of dollars worth of nets, and the fishermen are not. They don't have this money, so someone else is putting this money up in the chain. And our work is to, through the use of multiple teams undercover, to reconstruct this very complicated puzzle and to identify the most important pieces that have to be removed in a way or another, one by law enforcement, to have ripple effects that then back to the Sea of Cortez. So we have been working quite a bit to reconstruct this whole thing. We shared the way we work. Usually we produce a public report. It's online, you can download it. It's called Operation Fake Gold, but we also produce very thick confidential intelligence brief only for law enforcement with hundreds of targets, people, that law enforcement should investigate and take down. And we share this report with the Mexican authorities, Chinese authorities, US authorities. As you heard, some of these targets are into other kind of crimes, money laundering, human smuggling, fake passports. So there are US authorities, of course, are very interested in those guys, but also Chinese authorities. And the situation now is, we'll see. I mean, we are getting to the end of the Totoaba season in a few weeks. So we'll try to regroup for the next season, which would be critical. But the reason why the vaquitas are still alive, in my opinion, is because of Sea Shepherd. They are with anti-poaching. But anti-poaching in itself is not a solution. Anti-poaching is buying time. So you need also to address the second part of the problem, which is take down certain individuals forever. That's our job.
You can hold on, Mike. We got enough mics. Wolfgang, explain how the film's being used in this effort, and I know you screened in Hong Kong recently, and that's a big part of this. Is there's a problem, of course, in Mexico, but there's a problem globally, especially in China.
The important thing for us with these films is not only to make great films that people come and see them, and we're trying to reach outside the, not preaching to the choir, we want to attract new audiences, and that's why we have come up with this concept of making them more thriller-like. But for us it's not only filmmaking, it's what can we do, what impact will the film have? What can we do with the cause? And we're working frantically behind the scenes together with National Geographic, but also with Sea Shepherd and Elephant Action League. So we had a screening a couple of weeks ago in the Mexican Senate, and immediately the next day the case was discussed in the Senate.
Vaquita is just our symbol for what we do there. In those nets, we freed a live humpback whale. We freed, it's so ridiculous. So the vaquita is indeed our symbol, but those nets are destroying that entire marine ecosystem. But there's still hope. Like, I live there pretty much 24/7, and I've never been in an area that has so much life. And like the sea at nighttime, the bioluminescence means that it literally glows in the dark. And you have glow-in-the-dark dolphins jumping alongside your ship. Like, to see this most fantastic marine environment and not to be inspired by it or not to strive to protect it. There's still hope there.
And the long nets are everywhere. They're across the world. I mean, they're in this, we see Thailand, we see. Is that from a man-made, is that the primary scourge affecting the oceans in terms of destroying the fish habitat and population?
Yes, we as consumers have a big thing for plastic right now. We're doing campaigns for plastic straws and lots of single-use plastic. In the ocean right now, 46% of ocean plastic is abandoned fishing gear. Like that, the loss of biodiversity, the loss of whale species, the loss of fish species, unsustainable fishing is destroying what we all love, what we all want to protect. And if we truly wanted to save it, we just need to stop fishing for 50 years to let the ocean recover.
Hey, we have a question here.
Hi, thank you. So who makes the nets? Is there anything that makes their nets look different than legal fishermen? And is there a way to kind of watch over that or give some oversight to the manufacturers of the nets?
In the northern Sea of Cortez, there's a gillnet exclusion zone, and that's the area we protect, and within that there's the Vaquita Refuge, where no fishing at all is allowed. But those gillnets are not illegal. Like, they can be purchased at fishing shops in other parts of the world because it's not an illegal thing to own elsewhere. It's just illegal right there. Now, I would love to see them gone, but to try to control that would be next to impossible due to it's still legal everywhere.
We have another question here.
First of all, kudos to the team to do that tremendous achievement. There's a couple of questions. One is, how do you guys protect yourself now that there's people attacking you? And this, I mean, now that everybody knows who you are and you're pretty much there, and you need to be protected with the way that you're working. And the second question is, when can we make other fishermen who are legal to work over there? It looks like from the film they had to move at least an hour and a half, 2 hours down to go to some other shores. Why are they doing that, or is there a way that they could do their, catching and things like that in their zone itself rather than moving to some other places?
Do you want to answer the second part?
Yeah. There was, I must say, the Mexican government put a lot of resources into saving the Vaquita and the Sea of Cortez. They spent so far close to $100 million, and they had a compensation plan for fishermen. So they have this exclusion zone where fishing is not allowed. And for them, in order not to go out, they get compensation. But this compensation plan was abused and very corrupt. So a lot of the fishermen didn't get it, and after years of the government paying this and seeing no results, they stopped doing it this year. So now not only do the fishermen have no right to go fishing, they also don't get compensation. So that's what we are working on, and that's why the screening of the film was so important at the Senate, and it's screening again next week at the Ambulante Film Festival to convince the government.
Well, we have volunteers in all of our ships all over the world, and that's what's really making a difference. I think Jack has certainly demonstrated how effective his drone program can be. And actually, we have a new leader for the Molokai.
Just stand up so people can see if you want to talk to them.
But Jack's proven to be quite an eloquent spokesperson, except for a few swear words. What do you think? How
do you feel about Jared? It's all right.
Well, I'm not a big fan, but anyway. But no, he's doing an excellent job, as are all the crew on all of the ships. There's ships all over the world operating there. But this is actually our most dangerous campaign, without a doubt. Since the film, there's been major attacks on the town of San Felipe. All the government buildings were burned. Wow. The government docks were burned. We've been attacked. And actually, one of the things that you're saying, Wolfgang, is that the government actually did pay out the fishermen under duress just recently. Oh. Yeah, so they had no choice. The town was being torn apart. They also raided our compound, which you saw at the end, where all of those nets were. and they stole all of it back, but we'd already destroyed the nets, so they're in there. But what we're doing now is we're going to, we brought in a new vessel, the White Holly, former U.S. Coast Guard buoy tender, can take 100 tons, so we're going to keep the nets on that boat, and we're also looking to try and raise the money to get a shredder, so we shred the stuff as it comes on, and it'll never, could never be used again, and then we recycle all of that material. But we are committed to having our vessels in the Sea Cortez for as long as it takes, to make sure that the vaquita is protected. And I don't know how long that's going to be, but as Jack said, the solution is keep the nets out of the vaquita refuge, and that's all it really takes. And meanwhile, while Andrea's working on the other side of it, which is, once we solve that, and I think he can make progress on that. I think China is open to getting involved, and so it's working. Those both sides working together, I think, can keep the vaquita from going extinct.
Oh yeah.